Welcome to Challenging the Norm, his and hers look at life and business, hosted by Paul Snell and Lindsey Burden. This podcast is designed for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and business owners redefining success on their terms. Each episode dives into the topics that truly matter, offering a blend of candid discussion, practical insights, all delivered with a sense of humour. We reality check the latest business trends while offering a fresh perspective that challenges conventional thinking. Paul partners with business leaders, leveraging cutting-edge neuroscience to demonstrate how people-centered strategies drive transformational success. While Lindsey brings her unique approach to business coaching, empowering ambitious business owners to achieve financial abundance and a lifestyle rich in time and joy, all without compromising what matters most. Together, we are challenging the norm. So grab a coffee or your beverage of choice and join us as we explore the art of creating a life and business you love.
Lindsey, I normally start this with, hey, Lindsey, another episode. I'm not doing it. I'm just going to say, good to see you.
And
it's really warm.
not as warm as it has been, though.
Oh, yeah, but I'm convinced I should have been an Eskimo in a previous life. I absolutely should. I don't mind a bit of sun, but when it gets hot, I struggle with that. So I'm not going to whinge about the weather, because every time someone from abroad says, oh, you English, you always complain about the weather, I tend to live up to that. So I'm going to avoid living up to that. But how are you doing, Lindsey?
I am really good. I am really struggling somewhat talking to you today because obviously there is less and less in office space. So we are getting closer and closer to Paul being in a different space for an episode coming to you soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not long now, but for now I'm still here, which is always some good news, I think. And we're going to have a great episode. Now, we're going to have a great episode because we picked particularly topical, and it could go anywhere.
Could do.
So let's kick this off with a Lindsey, did you know you're going to be replaced by an AI coach?
Not only that, but apparently it's only going to cost £25 an hour. It sounds like a bargain to me. And you can tell straight away that I'm a bit sort of like, you know, and there is, when we did our preamble, there's so many places that we could go. And I really hope that people will watch our first AI episode and after listening to this one, because I think you and I have come a long way on this subject, have we not?
We have. And I think, as we said in the preamble, as much as it's probably not been that long between the original AI episode and now, it's probably a lifetime in relation to the growth of AI.
Yeah.
Right. So we know it's been huge leaps and bounds. Probably I've changed my attitude a wee bit, or no, I've refined it more, I think, towards AI. And so there's been huge leaps forward. And what prompted this conversation, I think, was there was some research published recently that said there were two skill areas within coaching that AI had outperformed a human coach. That was in active listening and open questioning. Now, let's just be clear on something. That isn't enough to replace a human, right? Not by any shakes. However, when it comes down to perception, people are going, oh, that's interesting. So we could end up with AI agents replacing human coaches. And that's sort of where we started on this. And you made a point, which I think we're both in agreement on, about AI. And that pretty much is you either embrace it in whatever form it needs to be embraced for you to maximize value, or you do risk becoming obsolete. I don't mean, and I've used that word really carefully, not replaced, obsolete.
Yeah, and that's the key. I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. In any industry, in any sector, in any shape or form, it's not about being replaced, it's becoming obsolete. Now, for those of us that are probably closer to 60 than the average person, I'm not too worried about becoming obsolete, because I will be obsolete sooner than the some of our listeners perhaps. Well, I think what's really interesting here is, at the beginning, it's £25. This particular thing that you were looking at is £25.
Yeah.
And there are two skills that the AI agent is really, really good at. But that absolutely is only a very, very small part of what coaching is. So, and we're using that broadest term, I think, aren't we? There's life coaching, business coaching, or any kind of coaching. Now, the challenge with that £25 and that very small part is you're only getting the smallest part of support. And that can be quite dangerous. And I'll say, let me explain that. So years ago, I used to do a lot of discovery courses, and I used to love doing them, and I used to give people loads of value, and it all felt great. But what I realized is I was doing them a disservice, because anybody who went through that process might be able to do the first step, or might even get to the second thing, and then what does that look like? But they'd very quickly get stuck because they didn't have the continuous support of somebody by their side. And I have a feeling or a fear that's potentially what will happen, is you'll get a little bit further and you'll just be stuck again. And that's not helpful, is it?
It's not. And it's a very good point, and not to dwell on the fact that we are definitely the later side in our 50s. When we were doing, I can remember before my O levels, the calculators, they were never used. And when they first come out, everyone said, "Oh, right, the calculator is going to replace a human because they can do numbers far quicker than any human." And the reality is, doing arithmetic quickly isn't the whole piece. The same way as doing active listening isn't the whole piece for a coach. The challenge for me in it is always going to be context. However good an AI is, it can't possibly know what context things are. So you can sit there and go, the pure skill of a technique, active listening, that is a non-contextual technique. In other words, you can apply a skill to a conversation that you didn't know what the subject was about before and still do active listening, right?
Yeah.
And so just to add to your point, I think the greatest challenge when we see coaching purely as a suite of techniques to achieve an outcome, we remove a huge part of the value that sits behind it to achieve an outcome.
And I think there's also this other challenge, isn't it? I could be wrong. The AI agent could have emotions. I don't know. The AI agent could read facial expressions and movement. Because even if you're just thinking about those two skills, it's not like the listening skill. It's not just about listening, is it?
Nope.
It's about interpretation of a movement, an eye movement.
Yep.
It's looking at the person and how they feel. Do they retract? How do they respond? There is so much more to it. And actually, I think, if I'm really honest, Paul, now we're talking about this £25 an hour solution, I'm less worried about it from a business coaching perspective. I am more worried about it from a life coaching or that piece, because potentially you could leave a session and think, I'm all fixed, I'm all done, and I just think, but they've not listened. They've listened, but they've not seen. They've not picked up on the nuances. And let's face it, when someone says, "How are you?" and you go, "I'm really good, thanks," people know by the strain in your face, by the fact that your eyes look like you're stuck in the headlights. People will pick up on that you're anything but fine from your movements, from your eye movement, from all of that, from the tone even of your voice. And I'm not sure that AI will be able to do that. So I think from a life coaching type space, I think there's some danger around it. I think from business coaching, I think there is less danger. I just think there'll be more people going, "Oh, I don't know what to do now. I need to speak to Paul or Lindsey, real human in my life."
There you go. No, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. I think even in life coaching, I don't think it's an easy replacement. I think for me, and I mentioned this in our preamble, one of the areas of concern for me is perception. It's a bit like trying to avoid using the example I used in the preamble. It's a bit like being shown something really, really good, thinking that's. I tell you what I use. I got a good idea. I'm going to really upset a few people, but you know, it is what it is. Estate agents,
Oh,
right? And the big issue I have isn't in any way or shape their behavior per se. It's the use of wide-angled lenses when they photograph properties, right? So I'm at this point, the reason I'm saying it is I can't upset too many people because everyone does it. But when you use a nice wide-angle lens on that, make that room look huge or that garden look huge, and then you go, oh, I'd like to go and see that house. And you drive for 2 hours to go and see that house because, of course, most people move 2 hours, don't they? And you get up there.
just you.
Which, yeah, maybe just me. And you get there and you go, hang on a second, this is nothing like the photographs.
Mm.
And therefore, for me, because trust is important to me, I stopped trusting at that point because I explained to you what we were looking for. You sent me stuff which is clearly not true, not factual. It's a take on the reality. And so I think my concern in the world of AI agents and coaching is the perception that people will get that they'll start using the people that write these agents, no criticism of them, but they'll start quoting the research that says how good AI agents are at coaching in particular skill sets. And my concern is that people in the potential clients and the public will simply go, well, that's a hell of a lot cheaper than talking to Paul.
Yeah.
It's clearly got some really good quality because the research seems to show that it does coaching well.
Yeah.
I know you read it. And people go off and spend their £25 and it won't be one session. You'll pay for more because not even AI can coach a result in one session. And so my concern is the public will only realise their fingers have been burnt after they've been burnt.
Yeah.
And that makes it challenging for either a coach who's invested heavily and is very good at what they do and charge accordingly, because that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And then we fall into that. So at the end of an AI coaching program, someone turns around and says, well, I've spent my money.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that is a real concern. And that's a concern for general public, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
That's not a concern for
Yeah.
us as our industry. That's
Yeah.
because we don't want people to have invested and to find that they've been spat out the other side.
Yeah.
Said Paul, though, I think people are more discerning. And now I can't remember if we talked about this in the last episode, but I've been talking about this a lot recently, how people are genuinely, they want to know that they're getting their money's worth, or to put it a better way, they want to know that they're investing their money in the right way, to benefit them to achieve their outcomes. People are getting much more discerning. So I guess there will be those that will go, yeah, I can see how it works, I can see what it does, but actually I'm just going to jump here.
Yep.
Perhaps that opening offer at that very low investment might help those at the early days, in the early years of their business when actually they don't have a lot of money to invest. However, taking on board what you said, you'll find yourself getting to this point and you'll have spent all the money that now you haven't got to spend with someone who you can really help. But equally, if they are discerning and can recognize, the snake charmer when they see one, I would like to think that could have benefit. So I think it feels like to me there is a few positives here. I know people are much more discerning, Paul. They really are looking at what they're getting, what are the outcomes. This is where I want to go. And I'm certainly seeing that. So I'm not sure everyone will buy into the £25.
I don't think everyone will, but I can't help believe having looked at, and we have to remember here about where our ideal client sits. So yours is business coaching, mine is behavioral science. They tend not to be a Joe Public style ideal client. I think as we discussed this, I think my concern would be more in line with what generically are termed as life coaches. And I understand their place and full of admiration. That's where it might impact, because people's perception of, oh, you could do with some coaching, or someone's recommended getting a coach, not necessarily for a business or growth or understanding, but more about life. And I think that's where the fees for type of coaching could be lower. And it can be the case, and that's not me trying to tarnish anything. It's just a reality to it. And therefore, I think AI may have a bigger impact there. So you're discerning, the people that are discerning in the expenditure, I'd understand that if that person is either a business owner or a leader within a business. I think that's where budgets now are scrutinized way more than they were maybe 24 months ago.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to the idea of generic coaching and life coaching, if you like, my concern there would be just like you. And the only analogy I've got is if you have people that write content for social media, or they design graphics for social media, that can be perceived as easily replaced.
Yeah. And I think just to jump on that thing that you hate, social media, that is exactly where you're going to see this £25 session. It's going to be all over Facebook. It's going to be all over other platforms as well. And it's going to be fed, because the people that will most likely go down that route are already being fed by the algorithm.
Yes.
And this is just going to be another thing that will go into the algorithm. And
Agreed.
I think even for the most discerning, and even for the most I was going to say sensible business owner, but we are not sensible. Business owners are not sensible. We cannot be sensible. But I think for everyone else, even then, because of the way the information comes at us, even we can find ourselves we can, off the path, and away we shall go. I think it's a really fascinating topic. I agree with you wholeheartedly that my big fear is for this life coaching, this, if you think mental health, well-being, all of those things, domestic violence, I mean, it's huge, where that £25 is going to almost be the holy grail and the solution to everything. And I think that is where the problems will lie.
I agree wholeheartedly, and it sort of leads on to that idea. So in that case, where does AI fit? And bearing in mind that we had this conversation a number of months ago, that was our first dip into AI, and at the time it was early days. Now we're seeing a much broader impact from AI, and we're also seeing what's coming next. And one of the things you described, I think correctly, is the idea that if we decide not to embrace AI in a form that adds value to what we do, and adds value to what the client outcome in what we do, then we become a risk of obsolescence. We become a risk of not being relevant anymore. And I think that's a bigger step forward than where we were a number of months ago in our first podcast of this, is the fact that I think back then, and I'm really struggling to remember detail, it's an age thing, I'm sure, that we concluded AI wouldn't be a huge impact on coaching per se, or the service-based business. What I hadn't appreciated back then was this concept of embracing AI. That was never a word that was bandied around. You need to embrace AI. It was always AI will replace you eventually. But that's changed, hasn't it?
And I think what's fascinating, and I remember you going, let's talk about AI. I'm thinking, I have not got a clue. I'm going to really have to be led by Paul, because I've got no idea. Because when it's not on my radar, when it's not on anyone's radar, it's not on your radar. You're not taking any notice. And I think at the time when we were having the conversation, it'd be interesting. I might go back and listen to it, because I got a feeling I was just sort of going with the flow and going, yes, it's great. Yeah, really in the back of my head thinking, oh my God, AI is going to take over the world. This is terrible. But in the time that has passed, and we should have checked, because you keep saying it wasn't that long ago. I think it was quite a long time ago. I think it was over 12 months ago
Could be. It could be.
this conversation. So, potentially even more, could have been in 2023 in one of our first episodes when we were trying to be, let's go and talk about something that's really big right now. Which was great, Paul, but you did scare the pants off me. For me, I have found a way of embracing AI in all sorts of different ways in my business and possibly in my life, but I can't think about an example right now because it was there anyway. And that's what people don't understand. AI is working for us all the time.
Yeah.
And once I'd got past that, it was about, okay, how can I use it? And I think there are so many of us who are now using AI to support our content writing. Yes, it can absolutely replace you. And do you know what? If you have not got time to write content, but you can give AI a couple of great prompts and it comes up with something and it sort of sounds like you go for it. As long as it's you're aligned with it, as long as it sounds like you, as long as no one's going to meet you and go, you don't sound anything like or look anything like that. You're all good people. Use it in any way, because I think one of the most powerful things that have come out of it for me are how it can help me save time. And that's the most important thing to me is time. So I am not sitting at my desk as long as I was.
Yeah.
And for me, that's really pretty key.
I think you hit it on the head, because there is I read an article recently which had a worrying trend in it. Now, you've just made the point that the big benefit to you is to help you save time, or in other words, or improve productivity, whatever way you want to turn that. But there was a great bit of research done where they gave a number of people an EEG based on using an AI to deal with a problem or solve a problem. And in other words, they had to talk, it's ChatGPT style thing. You had to give it prompts and so forth. And another one where they had to sit and work out the solution themselves. And the brain activity using ChatGPT was off a cliff. I mean, significantly. So while I'm all up for improving things like productivity, making things work better, more efficient, whatever, I'm all up for that. But the minute it replaces our need to think, the alarm bells ring, because that has a long-term impact.
Well, it's quite interesting when you just think about content writing. I read an article that we will hit a point in time in the future when there will be no more new content.
No.
So all AI is doing is it's just scraping the surface all the time and dumping it into your chat.
Yep.
Which is why I would encourage anyone, if you're going to use chat, use it like a person. Use that, bounce off ideas, because that creativity, particularly if you work on your own, having someone go, oh no, I didn't like that, but I'm really liking this, or I've had this bonkers idea, or how about we add that in? I literally have a conversation, and it really does spark that creativity that is quite hard to achieve when you work on your own.
I think you hit it on the head. I think, honestly, that's exactly where I think AI should be to add the value to what we do. And I guess it's very obvious to us when we are a one-person business, or we don't have access to that creative conversation or brainstorming, whatever word you want to use. I think your description is exactly that. We've said in the past how lonely being a business owner can be. And I look, not for 1 minute do I think AI is going to replace having some sort of contact with people. Neither do you, and your participation only for networking and so forth is a testimony to that. However, you can have all these wonderful conversations with people, and all of a sudden you can have all these ideas buzzing around your head. And then AI is a good place to go. I just want to try and expand on some thoughts I'm having around some ideas that came up in conversation, blah, blah, blah. That I can see the genius in.
And That is exactly how I love using chat. Other options are available. I've been trialing a green one because let's face it, there is an environmental impact to using these things. And I've been trialing a green one, which I really enjoy using because it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
And there's others. Claude's another one. I've got clients who use Claude. I think what we need to remember, and what I'm about to share now applies to any shape or form how we use AI, even your £25 person, your AI agent. After a while, if you keep putting things, so I might go off on my brainstorm, da 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 da, that's great. And then I write it and I go, hey, this is my final version. What do you think? It will tell me it's beautiful, it's solid, it's got your tone, da 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 da. Chat's there to stroke my ego. Chat will not go, Lindsey, that's a terrible piece of writing. We need to redo that. Or Lindsey, that's a terrible idea. Chat's never going to say that. Chat is only going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yep. It's not going to challenge you. That's for sure.
No. And it cannot then see if I'm in floods of tears and it's really upset me, so it needs to say it in a different way, or whether I'm actually raising my eyebrows to the roof because I think it's rubbish and you're telling me it's great. Chat cannot do any of those things. None of them can. So we must keep in mind that it's always going to be there, because as our servant, our trusted person that's going to run around and tell us how great we are, and that, it's just going to be there fanning us when it's really, really hot, which it doesn't do, by the way. It just feels like that's a good way of going, just a reality check.
Yeah.
It's only going to tell you good things.
It is, and I think on the whole, where we are, I think what we're trying to say around this is there will be hype. There always is hype that people can be replaced. There'll always be hype that it can do more than it can do. Yeah. That's the nature of marketing, sadly. It's always about extremes. Yeah. So whatever we face, we're going to face a point where someone's saying, my AI agent can outperform coaches. That's going to happen. I can absolutely guarantee you. However, the reality, we believe, is very different. AI can do well in certain core skills of coaching, but coaching isn't about core skills. It's about a whole, right? The adage, the sum is greater than its parts. That's exactly what coaching is. Yeah. You can't say, out of 5 key coaching skills, I can do 4, therefore I'm a good coach. That's not how it works. Coaching is much more subtle, there's much more nuance, I like that word, and there's much more context. So I do want to say, if anyone's listening in a service-based business, 2 things. Lindsey, you're absolutely right. We need to embrace AI. It's here to stay. And by the way, it's a huge value. And I love the take you have on it that says, if you're a one-person business, you've probably got someone there you can brainstorm ideas with. Yeah. It isn't going to tell you, as you quite rightly say, you're wrong or bad, or it's always going to be on the positive. But it will give you some good information. It will give you some good feedback. So there is value to your business, but it is not about replacing you. Yeah. I think that's really key.
And from a research perspective, I know plenty of people, because it will just go out and do the search for you. It will search the internet. All you then need to do is ensure that you need to fact check stuff. Don't just send it out willy-nilly. But that's the same as anything. Wouldn't we want to do that? Wouldn't we want to embrace, yes, it's having all these tools to help us, but then at the end of the day, the buck stops with us. So therefore, we have a responsibility to check things. And, I don't know if we've said it already. I know I did at the preamble. I know people that are now being recommended by chat.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
I will. Now, this is how changed I am, Paul, from the person when we had that first conversation. And I wasn't really sure what AI exactly was or where it was coming. But thank you, Paul. You always come knowing what to say and what to do and enlighten me. I recently signed up for something because I want to learn how to be recommended by chat.
Oh, wow.
Because why wouldn't you? I'll let you know how I get on.
That's fascinating. You must do that. Not just me. We need to do a podcast episode on that. I think that's fascinating. And of course, that plays marvelously to our, and I'm not saying it's wrong, right, or indifferent, to our self-worth. If someone turns around, because I can remember way back when AI was first coming out, there were some very famous people who you could say to ChatGPT, I want to write in the style of, pick a famous writer, Tolkien, and it would start. But if it's reached a point where mere humans like you and I could get recognized or be relevant to ChatGPT by AI, how incredible is that?
I know. And when I say I know people, I have had one-to-ones and conversations with this person who has been recommended.
Wow.
So this isn't just, the big people that are all over the internet and have got people doing it all for them. This is just you and I, normal people.
Well, on that note, we're probably out of our time. We knew this would be a big subject. We knew we could talk forever on this.
Absolutely.
So we probably do need to park it. But I am going to say, in the recording now, we need to do a podcast episode on the outcome of your endeavors in being recommended by Chat. I'd find that fascinating.
I'll let you know how I get on.
Fantastic. Lindsey, another great subject, isn't it? And we could talk way more on this, and no doubt we will. It feels like we should have a periodic upgrade or review of AI. And if we ever do get to that point where AI does replace everything that a human can do, we'll look back at these episodes with fond memory of how wrong we were.
Or we won't be here at all because the AI agent will be doing it for us.
That would be hilarious to have an episode at the end of it going, well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. That was done entirely by AI. Lindsey and Paul will be back next time.
We just needed a break. Paul, as always, you bring a great topic. So thank you for bringing that to us today.
We'll see you soon.